Cheers, everybody. We are back for another edition of Bourbon on a Budget. Myself, Brendan Sonnone, and Ben Koch, joined by a couple of very special guests from Three Chord Distillery, Mr. Neil Giraldo and Mr. Three Chord Ari Sussman. Thank you so much for hanging out, gentlemen. I do like the option that the platform gives you to put whatever you want. Sometimes we play pranks on each other with the different names and stuff. But guys, thank you for joining us. How are you tonight?
We're good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
For sure.
Awesome.
Our pleasure.
So we're all kind of sipping on some of your different whiskeys, some of your different bourbons, ryes. We've got a fun little lineup that we'll get into a little bit later tonight, but we've got the standard blended bourbon whiskey, which we're going to do a review of later this week. We've got the straight bourbon whiskey that's finished in the Pinot Noir barrels. That's been a crowd favorite here tonight so far. The rye whiskey as well, and then got a special bottle of this 12-year reserve barrel-proof whiskey. So that one might be a little bit harder for you guys to find out there, but it wasn't for us. So sorry about your luck, but we will not for them, for everybody listening. But thank you guys for hanging out. We're excited about it. But let's start off. Let's hear from these guys. Neil, let's talk to you for just a moment. Tell us a little bit about how'd you get into this? Obviously musician's background, musical background. How in the world, and not in a bad way, because we love whiskey. Obviously, we do a whole show about it. But why whiskey? How did you get into this? Take us back to the beginning.
Okay. All right. Here, I'll try to keep it as moving as quickly as we can so we can get to everything. And the most important thing, we're going to be sipping some great whiskey. Hopefully you guys are going to like this. So it goes like this. I'm going to have to blame part of it on my grandpa Nunzio Giraldo, because, he would put me on his knee when I was 5 years old, and Nilo, and he would give me this whiskey and grappa and wine that he made in his basement. When they came from Bronte Catania, Sicily to America, it was the Bronx, and then it ended up being Cleveland, Ohio. They had a choice. They can either go to Detroit or Chicago or stay in New York there, but we went to Cleveland. So anyway, that's my beginnings. And I remember drinking this grappa and this whiskey, and it scared the hell out of me, truthfully. It was so bad.
Grappa, oh my God.
Oh yeah. But he made it in his basement, and it's all the Sicilian way, Italian way. Everything is from the roots, right? So, and this is a great month for us. This is the month of May, which is the 5th month of the year. 5 is my favorite number, other than 3. I like 3 as well. Our anniversary was on the 16th of May 16, 2016. And the story goes is this. I was working on a screenplay because other than, writing songs and producing records and being a musician, I also write as well. I write screenplays. I got a couple books I'm working on that I haven't finished yet. Hopefully I'll finish them soon. Let's just say that, soon, hopefully. So I was working on this screenplay to do just like a treatment going as a hybrid kind of film, right? Hybrid documentary. And the person was helping me out with it says, why don't we get a spirits company to give us some seed money to get it going? We can get a trailer made. And I said, why don't we start our own company? And he laughed and he thought I was crazy, but I'm impulsive that way. And I thought it was a great venue because bourbon and whiskey, I chose whiskey because I love conversation. I don't think people have enough time in their lives to have conversation anymore. And bourbon and whiskey is a sipping. You sip and enjoy. You respect the moment. It's traditional. It's not that there's anything wrong with jumping on tables. I'm just saying, you want to sit around and drink whiskey and talk to friends, talk to your family. I just want to encourage that. So the conduit for doing a film about musicians, because what I want to do is give back to the musicians that I grew up with and all the musicians throughout the world that struggle to put food on the table for their families, because being a musician is a very, very tough career. I mean, there's a lot of really tough careers out there. Being a musician, because once you're a musician, you're one for life. It's not like you get into it and then you get out. When you have it, you're there. And sometimes it doesn't always work out. And sometimes it does. So I started this film idea as a give back component to actually give back to the city of Cleveland, Ohio, where I grew up as well. So it's all about the roots. It's all about a music ambassadorship program and a messaging that we started with Three Chord. The only other thing I'm going to say about it is when it came time for the name, originally the bourbon was called Steel Bending Bourbon. Okay, now that tastes like you're drinking liquid metal or something. This is not a good sounding thing, right? So every time I come up with a name, and I had some great ones like Legato. That's a great word, right? Taken. Everyone was taken. Finally, the trademark attorney said to me, he says, the reason you don't have the right name yet is because the right one didn't come along yet. I woke up the morning, I says, wait, that's it. 3 chords and the truth. 3 chord bourbon. That's it. Called them up and we secured the name, and that's how the company was, that's how it was born. And our first release was in June of 2018. So that's our story. And leading into Ari, 3 Chord Ari over here. I like that name. When we were born on May 16, 2016, the first thing we were looking for was a distiller. We wanted to get a blender distiller that followed the same messaging, because you're going to learn about the brand that the messaging is very, very important and critical to our future and what we're about. I didn't want a company that would be, God willing, a successful, a $200-300 million company and then start to give back. I wanted to start right away from day one. That's how the company came about. That's what we do. It's about messaging. It's about the truth and integrity, and that's really what we're about. So when we found Ari, everything just started falling into place. When I met Ari, and it's funny, he was working in this distillery, and I met him, and I shook his hand, gave him a hug, and I knew from that minute that he was the right guy. And I was right. He's perfect for us. He's our brand. We're all a team, every single one of us. So, on that note, I've talked enough already. So,
well, I want to follow up with that, Neil. How did you decide that we're going to go down the road of blending? Like, especially like in 2016 or so, blending, as some people in the bourbon community were kind of stick their nose up at it, and that's changed so much since then. How did you decide that's what we're going to do when we're going to master it? We're going to be really great at this aspect.
I'll tell you how this happened. In music, my whole career, I've been a disruptor. And what I mean by that, I was never afraid to mix genres of music. I wasn't afraid to do things that some people would fear. I like to be brave. And what I found out, because I learn something new every day, what I found out about music and blending, they're exactly the same. In music, you set a palette up and you set a landscape, and all these little tones matter to the sound of a record. I can tell you this, I can play you a song, I can subtract something from that song as small as a reverb on a snare drum or a little guitar part somewhere, and you will not maybe like the song as much as you did when you had that little thing. So when I met Ari, and I was talking, saying we agreed both that we were both disruptive in a positive sense. And when Ari started telling me, he goes, I blend, I love doing this, just like in Scotland and scotches and everything else. And I was sold on it. First of all, what matters the most? It's the flavor. It's the story. It's your life. It's what you're trying to say with your brand. And I don't care if it's blended in a bathtub. If it tastes great, that's all that matters. And a whole team feels the same way. The last thing I will say is that everybody has a say-so in this company. Every single person that works for it. If one person says, I don't like what this expression is like, well, let's look at it again. Let's see until we can have everybody liking it. That's the way it goes. Not one person controls this company. It doesn't happen.
So Ari, you're a disruptor as well. Can you tell us how you made your way into disrupting in the bourbon industry? I guess your background is in wine initially. So how did you kind of translate that over to blending different types of bourbon and whiskeys?
Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, I want to clarify, we don't actually blend in bathtubs. But
if we did, it would be great.
That might be the title of the
special release at some point. Right. Set up the cameras on the bathtub, and you get to watch the whole process.
Yeah, depending on whose bathtub, you may be able to sell it for a lot for each bottle. Yeah. There's some weirdos out there. Just saying.
Write this down. Let's think about that later.
Too many.
So, my background is I grew up in a family that wine was served with dinner. Wine was served at holidays. It was sacramental. It wasn't looked down upon. It was sort of revered. And early on, when I was in my teens, I used to hang up coats for the Ann Arbor Wine Club. It's like a group of dudes at the time. They all had mustaches and ponytails, and they would drink wine together. And my buddy and I would hang up coats, and at the end of the night, we were like 15, we'd get to taste some wine. Later on, I thought I was going to have a career in politics as an analyst. And once I started working at the state capitol, I realized that wasn't the thing to do. Ended up moving to France and got a job at a winery, which was exactly what I wanted to do. And while I was there, there was a still, and we made brandy and we made wine. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the manufacture of these products that people enjoy, right? And used as a cohesive thing. Like, to make that from natural ingredients is something that I just love doing that, right? Love brewing, love winemaking, love distilling. And for me, distilling is sort of the most interesting in a lot of ways. And what we're doing at Three Chord is pushing the boundaries of even that category. But when I came back to the United States, I didn't have the disposable income to buy all the booze that I wanted to try and all the wines that I wanted to try. So I got into hospitality and bar management, bartending, and spent a decade training my palate, working with people on the other side of the bar, and learning a lot about the world of wine and spirits and cocktails and all of that. But in the back of my mind, I always felt like I had 2 feet in the field. Like, I knew what it was like to make stuff. And when I heard people poo-pooing wine, sales reps coming in and be like, it's only $6 a bottle, you're not going to like it, I would always think to myself, no, there's people that made that, and don't poo-poo that, right? That's got integrity to it. So my perspective was always a little bit different. And it occurred to me when the cocktail thing was happening, and I was getting into cocktails. I was reading old books that had ingredients, spirits, that when I went looking for them, it turned out they hadn't been made in 80 years. These old spirits that I wanted to try in these cocktails that haven't been made. So I got online and I was like, okay, who can teach me how to make these spirits, right? I want to make cocktails with them. They don't exist. I can make them. Turned out at the time, if you wanted to learn how to distill in like 2008, 2009, there was only one university in the United States that would teach you. It was Michigan State University. And I happened to have gone there for undergrad, knew nothing about this. And so when I was 30, I called up the professor and I said, I would like to make these spirits that used to exist, but don't exist anymore. And he said, yeah, I'm not interested in doing that. But if you want to come learn how to distill, mop the floor. We're looking for someone to basically clean up the place. And I said, sure. And a couple months later, I was the distillery manager at Michigan State. And we were developing products for tons of craft distilleries and working with big distilleries as well on development of yeast strains and mash bills and maturation conditions and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of what I learned, which was like a crash course, I spent 5 years working at that distillery, lots of tricks of the trade that go back in history. Blending techniques that aren't currently being used, but that were used for 100 years in the United States. And when I met Neil, and he spoke of integrity, he spoke of truth, 3 chords in the truth, and he said, we're going to be successful and we're going to do this the right way. I was kind of sold and he said, we're going to be disruptive. I said, I have this whole playbook of techniques that I think have applications in the marketplace. And a lot of those techniques have kind of come to fruition in the products that we're making.
Well,
yeah, and we will not inject our whiskey or bourbon with any kind of flavoring. We won't do that. We don't do it. Yeah. We won't do it. And meanwhile, by the way, we talk a lot about blending. In music too, we got blending and mixing. When you have a lot of background vocals, you blend them vocals, but the final outcome of your record is mixing, right? So there's mixing and blending. So, but also distilling. We're also distillers as well. Don't just say that we're blenders, because we are storing our juice and we're growing it and we're distilling. Yeah,
I was going to ask about that. I'm glad you mentioned it. Well, one thing I wanted to ask Ari is kind of, again, keeping in line with disruptive here, the heating process that you guys use with your finishing. Can you explain that a little bit? Because I was looking up on the research. It sounded super interesting and unique. Please, could you inform our audience about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the ways, and this is primarily for our blended bourbon, our introductory expression. In fact, if you have a glass, go ahead.
That's what I have. That's what I have right here. I'm almost done with the glass.
I'm going to pour myself some as well. So what we wanted to do in the introductory expression, which is our lowest proof, which is our first offering, it says blended bourbon. Really, it's just a blends of bourbon. Was create a whiskey that used a variety of ages of bourbon and kind of highlighted the coolest thing that happens at each stage in whiskey. So young whiskey, which is I don't like to drink by itself. That's it. Can have a really great grain character that during years 3 and 4 gets totally overtaken by the wood, right? And that's bourbon. And you lose something. You lose grain character, right? Grain character is what most distillers in the world go for. If you go to Scotland, they're going to talk about the character of the grape, right? If you go to Ireland, if you go to cognac, they're going to talk about the character of the grape. Grain character is not a big deal in American whiskeys. And one of the things, really important in the wine world is when you make wine, the fruit is the star of the show and the wood plays a supportive role. That's bourbon is the other way around, right? But because bourbon is 80% wood flavor, right? The wood is the star of the show, right. And the grain plays a supporting role. What we wanted to do is give the grain, give the drummer some. We wanted to give the grain a little bit, put it forward just a little bit, and for that we used 2-year Kentucky for the mid palate, and it was just for that character. That by itself is not like a unique and compelling whiskey, but that as a component of a blend can add something that you just don't have in older whiskeys. It gets overtaken by the wood. Another component of 3 Chord blended bourbon is 4.5 to 5-year-old Indiana bourbon, 21% corn or 21% rye. And then for the low end, for the base notes, to bring it to tie it all together, we use a 12 to 16-year-old Tennessee whiskey, a bourbon whiskey from Tennessee. And using whiskeys of different ages from different distilleries with slightly different mash bills, different yeast strains, and then blending them in certain proportions gives you a whiskey that's unique in and of itself. But one thing that it lacked was that we wanted an introductory whiskey that was really important for the vision of this product, was we wanted like a lot more vanilla than that product would have. So what we did, and this is the heating process that you're asking about, is you can take the barrel, if you take a barrel apart and you look at how far the liquid goes in and comes out, and how much character it extracts from the wood, it's a small component of the wood in those staves. So we like to break staves down and basically retoast them, give them another low-level char, retoast, and then let the whiskey circulate through. It's the same wood that the same barrels that it came in. We're just pulling out more of what is in there, and that is an innovation that we think makes a really cool whiskey. It was the missing thing in the blend that we had to add to it.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely. Now that you talk about your kind of approach and providing more like grain character as opposed to wood rising above everything else, I remember drinking it earlier this afternoon and being like, man, I have a lot more of the fruity floral notes on this as opposed to like your oak and caramel. So that really matches up with your approach. So you definitely
those characters. That's what we were trying to coax out.
It is 100% there. And I think Brennan talked, when we were drinking it earlier, we were just chatting. He was pulling a lot of like lemon zest out of it, and I was like, yes, I see like a lot of lemon, almost like a sweet tea kind of approach. And so that's pretty distinct in the bourbon character. So I think you've definitely accomplished your the goal you set out there on your entry bourbon. One that I'm really excited about and I want to talk more about is the Pinot Noir finished bourbon, which to me, it's almost like kind of a return to that sweetness of bourbon. And you having that wine background, I think that just plays really well into this bottle. So talk a little bit about the Pinot.
What I'll say really quickly, Neil, is I love the interaction between wine and whiskey, and had been waiting to see sort of what as a company we would create in that genre. right? And Neil, I think, nailed it.
Well, thank you.
Neil, how did it come together?
I may have nailed the idea. You nailed the juice. I got to tell you, it's phenomenal.
Right.
So here's the story behind Strange Collaboration. My daughter was dating this boy, a young man. His name was Johnny Strange. And at the time she was dating him, he was the youngest person to climb all 7 summits. And his family, the Strange family, were all environmental, what do they call them? They had a TV show too as well. They all climbed. Everybody in the family climbed, ran, did bikes. I mean, true athletes, right? So Johnny Strange was a wild young man, a great young man. And he would, when he was dating my daughter, he would get himself in some trouble, and he'd always talk to me. I was like the surrogate father because he needed me in his life. I really felt that. So he would come to me, talk really quiet. Can you help me? And I did. I got a really close relationship with him. In fact, one of the summits at the base camp, he had a satellite phone. So he would always call my daughter. And of course, he'd say, I'm going to talk to your father. So I get on the phone. He's like, you got to do this. Next one you're going to do, you have to do. I go, listen, I've climbed a lot of mountains in my life. That's a metaphor. I don't need to be climbing real mountains anymore. Okay. I'm too old to be doing that. You do the climbing. I'll enjoy your whole process. So what happened was, he was in Switzerland, and it was a tragic event. He was a flyer, and he took off, and he caught a draft that wasn't proper, and he died that day. And it was tragic. It was horrible. It was just you can't imagine losing a child. It's just the worst possible thing on earth. So time passed since that happened, and I was in a restaurant. We both live in the same town, his father, Brian. And I saw him, and he came up to me. And as soon as he saw me, he broke into tears. I gave him a big hug. We both teared up together. And I says, and he just started talking that he started this vineyard called Strange Family Vineyards. And it's 100% nonprofit. All the proceeds go to Johnny Strange Foundation. And I says, well, I started a spirits company, and I have bourbons. What do you think about putting some of our juice in some Pinot barrels? He goes, I think it's a fabulous idea. So that's how the relationship started. So that's how Strange Collaboration began. And just so you know, we also give proceeds to the Johnny Strange Foundation from every sale of this bottle as well. And we are proud to do that for that family and for him and his legacy. And if you ever want to read about him or anything, he was on the Jay Leno show. He was a remarkable young man. You got to just Google him, Johnny Strange flyer, and you'll read all about him. But anyway, great family. Brian and I are spiritually connected. We'll be that way for always. And that's how it began. And, the thing about Ari, which is really cool, this is why I knew right from the very beginning, we have conversations, and all it takes is one word. And he's like, wait, but what about if we did this? And I'd say, do it. I'd say, do it. Just do anything. Just do it. I don't care. And that's how we do stuff. Is that right, Ari?
That's right.
So really it.
We benefit. So the idea to collaborate with a specific company came before I had tasted their product or anything like that, right? Weird position to be in. Could be awkward. Turns out their product's good, right? Not only is their product good, they use real barrels. So like American whiskey barrels are $250 barrels. They use like $1,000 to $1,200 barrels. French oak, gorgeous, amazing barrels. So the question was, again, and it came back to this concept of grain forward versus fruit flavored, or versus wood dominant in whiskey, and American whiskey is generally wood dominant. What we wanted to do here was create a whiskey. We had to determine what proof it was going to be at. Turns out it wanted to be at 99 proof,
Perfect.
Which was higher than I thought it was going to be. What happens at 99 proof is you take that crossover market of wine drinkers who are willing to try a whiskey, and they taste something at 99, and they're like, 14%. Like 14% is high for me. But this whiskey wanted to be at 99 proof. And we took 2- and 3-year-old Kentucky bourbon, and then we added some 8-year-old on the back end just to bring it up so that it was a proper, like, structured spirit, so that it was balanced. so it wasn't top heavy or like lumbering or anything. It felt harmonious. And then we finish it. We bring the proof down. We don't want to add water at the end. The idea of adding water at the end of whiskey making and just taking this beautiful, beautiful thing, just adding neutral liquid to dilute it is not something we do a lot of in this company. Hardly ever. So proof it down before it goes in the barrels. That's a technique that's not used by a ton of people, but it's a low barrel entry proof. And it means that you're flavoring all that proofing water at the same time, right? You're not adding neutral water in later. You're flavoring it with all the wine that's in the barrels. And then, of course, barrels move a lot as they get hot and cold. So moving these barrels around, making sure they're in a hot place, a cold place before we dump them out to push all the liquid out, to get all the wine and wood character out of this beautiful French oak is, this particular spirit needs to be moved around. And what I'll say about it is it started as a one-off project.
Mhm.
Hey, let's do
That's
it one time.
Right.
And then it was like, someone tried it, and can they get a bottle? We're like, no, we just did it once. And okay, bring some more barrels over. We'll do it again. And then it was like a 4-barrel thing, just to and it kind of grew by itself.
Correct.
And it's amazing the response that it's gotten. It won a gold medal in San Francisco, which was amazing, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
Who would have thunk? So yeah, when I heard that we were going to use Pinot Noir, right? We're not going to use Cabernet. We're not going to use sherry. We're not going to use big whiskeys. We're going to use maybe like the most delicate red wine grape that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
How can we make it so you can still taste the essence of that grape, but still have a 99 proof straight Kentucky, blend? It was a wonderful experience putting this together.
Neil, how did you decide? So I know looking at the vineyard and so different types of wines, I've only had one type of Pinot finished whiskey before this, and this is exquisite. It's really good. How did you decide we're gonna do Pinot? We could have done Cab. We could have done other types of wines. How did you decide Pinot is what we're going to go with here?
The same way I decided to start with bourbon. I mean, people would, when I first started talking, I say, why don't you do vodka? It's easy. You could do vodka. You could do gin. You could slap your name on it. And I says, first of all, this is not a celebrity brand. Okay. We get that right away. I'm a musician. I'm a proud musician. I like spirits. I like bourbon. So I chose bourbon because it was tough and difficult. And I needed somebody talented like Ari to see that vision and be part of this family. So when it came to Pinot is a tough grape. It's a tough grape. So when I was talking to Brian Strange and he was telling me, yeah, we do Cabs, we do Merlot, we do Pinot. I said, stop. Pinot's it. You got to do that because it's a tough one. Here's the other thing that's important. In music, for my 45 years of in the professional world of music, I've always challenged an audience. I never dumbed anyone down. I refuse to dumb anyone down. I challenge people. And a lot of times when you challenge people musically, they don't always quite get the idea of what you're trying to do. It takes them a little time. But once they get it, they love it because they challenge themselves too. So I just did that. Speaking of that, what are we going to do after we do a bunch of bourbons, Ari? What's the next one?
We love grapes, right? So I think we're thinking about a grappa.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Going back to the roots.
Yeah.
A drinkable, smooth, beautiful nose grappa. Let's be clear about it.
My first time getting drunk, getting intoxicated was grappa in Italy. After I graduated high school, we went to Italy, and you could drink over there. And it was homemade grappa at the house we were staying at. And it was strong, and I was not used to drinking hard liquor at that point. And it was basically, it's Italian moonshine for the people listening at home. It is
exactly right.
It is intense, but good memories, I guess. What I can't remember.
I want to submit. I want to posit something. I want to submit something just for consideration for one moment, which is when I was of a certain age, if you said tequila, people would go, "Oh, I had the worst hangover I've ever had on tequila." Like that stuff is, that's what you drink when you're just taking shots.
Right.
How much is a good bottle of tequila now?
Oh,
how much do tequila brands sell for now?
Yeah, that market's crazy.
Oh yeah.
Part of zigging when people zag, part of being disruptive, is to take that thing that maybe hasn't been done as well as it should be done. That what tequila was to us. Anytime you say grappa, fire water. Well,
yeah, exactly.
It's eau de vie. Mm-hmm. It's an eau de vie. It's a European style eau de vie that nobody's tried changing or elevating in a long time, right? But all the ingredients are right there.
Yeah.
For a really good spirit.
And it's great because it comes from just the seeds and the byproducts. It's so much of the Italian Sicilian way, just like food, peasant food. We all eat Italian food. A lot of it is peasant food. That's all from the root of it. That's important. So Ari's on the same page. I anytime I say anything, he the light bulb
is what Dogecoin at 4 cents. That's what that's where we're going with grappa.
we want to we don't want to keep you guys too much longer, but we do want to talk about these last two before we get out of here. So we'll go quick through these, but we have converted Brendan into being a rye guy. He's not been a rye guy for long. You guys have an excellent rye. Amplify rye whiskey. Let's start there. We'll go to the big boy last. We'll save the best for last. But talk to us about this rye whiskey. I'm a spice guy. Ben's a spice guy.
Yes.
Brendan's jumping into it, but talk to us about it.
Go ahead, Ari.
So I'm glad you enjoy it. I don't know if we'd save the best for last. We were talking before the broadcast, and I'm drinking rye components. Rye has a special place in our heart because rye is kind of an underappreciated grain. Rye has a ton more character than corn. Rye whiskey has a ton more flavor, not wood-derived flavor, but grain-derived flavor.
Yes.
Than corn. The same field that will give you 8 barrels of bourbon if you grow corn on it will give you 2.5 barrels of rye if you grow rye on it. It's a financially irresponsible beverage to make. The only reason why you make it, and there's a ton of other reasons, it's a pain in the ass to produce. It turns into glue, it bubbles over. The only reason you make it is because it has a flavor that nothing else has. Right? That's why people make rye whiskey. And we wanted to highlight that flavor. And so we love when rye is at a certain point, and if you blend it correctly, I think you can have a structured rye that also has the cherry notes that we love that come from the grain, a little bit of spice, not an overwhelming. It's not a spice bomb. It's really, when farmers talk about rye, they call it a fruit. They don't call it a grain. They call it the fruit of the rye. And we really wanted the rye character to come through, really honor that grain.
Yeah, all I had to say to Ari was one word. I said, you know what my favorite fruit is? Cherry. He goes,
yeah, right.
When we poured these out earlier and nosing it, I was like, this smells almost like gushers, like the fruitiness of the fruit of gushers. Like that was what I got in addition to the rye spice, but I've never smelled, I'm new into it, but a rye that had that pronounced of a fruity nose, really unique and interesting. So kudos to you guys. Because that's definitely what I got was like that cherry.
One thing I'll say about rye is I think that as a whiskey category, keep an eye on rye. A lot of the innovation happening in whiskey is happening with rye, not bourbon.
Interesting.
See what's going with rye, because what we're seeing with rye will be in bourbon in 5 years, but it's starting now in rye. So check out the innovations going on there.
Interesting.
Rye's the best.
Ben's a big rye.
I love rye. I love ryes.
He named his first son rye.
Good name. I like it.
It might be the second son though.
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right, so we've got the last one up here that we all have poured and we're all sipping on. Barrel proof, 12-year, the 12 bar reserve. Let's talk about that one.
Neil said You've made the introductory expression of bourbon. Now make something that can go head to head with any bourbon in the world. You know, no, just your typical go hit a home run, go put something that in a blind taste test can stand up against any other bourbon. And I said, if we're going to make it really, really interesting, let's make everything minimum of 12. So it's all 12 to 16-year-old in there.
Right.
Okay.
And it's a blend of Tennessee and Kentucky. So each of those styles, I feel, has strengths and weaknesses, subjectively speaking. And what we did is over the course of a long process, and Neil talked about how everyone gets a say, and we listen to everyone during the creative process before we lock in on a recipe and a profile. It's really a profile because the recipe changes, but hopefully the profile is consistent. We wanted something that was going to hopefully take the best from Kentucky and in Tennessee in terms of good, foolproof bourbon, and this is what we ended up with.
Right. We wanted a bigger hug. When we started off, you have to, with anything, you start off with one and you just gradually grow. You move forward. We took a lot of heat. Pardon the expression, the pun on that. We took a lot of heat in the beginning because our 81 proof blend. A lot of the bourbon snobs would say, "Oh, only 81 proof. Oh, I ain't gonna drink that." Then somewhere down the line, all of a sudden they're coming back and they go, "You guys still got that blended around?" Because it's all about the flavor and the profile, what you're trying to get, the expression.
So we wanted to prove that we could do like lower proof bourbon.
Correct.
Well, we sort of wanted, hey, we do this, but we also do this.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that we do see is that our first expression, blended bourbon, comes out at 81 proof. Our second expression, which is rye, 95 proof. Third expression, strange, came out at 99. 12 bar comes out 107.
Mm-hmm.
And then later it's whiskey drummer, almost 119.
We didn't get a. We didn't. I see a pretty good up there. I was saying that one wasn't in my little gift basket.
Oh,
I really like the art on that. That's really cool. Really nice.
It's the Illuminati. Well, that's my Grandpa Nunzio. This is spectacular too. Sorry you guys didn't get it. Next time you'll get it. We can
Man, looks great.
Some of that together. Yeah, this is fantastic. Absolutely.
What's the 15-year-old straight Kentucky, as opposed to the 12-year-old blend of Tennessee and Kentucky?
Yeah.
Can I ask you real quick before we go, why did you decide on 81? Is that just where it came out, where you wanted it to be? Does that number have any significance? We talked about before the show. I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan. So when I saw 81, I was like, oh, it's perfect. I know that's not why you picked it, but why 81? But if you tell me that, I'm only drinking this for the rest of my life. So
okay, well here, listen. Here you go. It was because of Kobe Bryant. No, I'm kidding. Because didn't he go to 23?
24.
24. Okay, so the deal with 81 is this, and this is the truth of it. We tried going 83, 85, and we were losing some of that, vanilla kind of thing that was going on. Then we tried lower, a little bit high. And then we settled on 81 without nobody knowing. But the other part of it is I don't like even numbers. I like odd numbers. So
I like it.
99, 95, 107. Yeah, you do. That's consistent.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't even
all odd
send
numbers.
samples.
Of
Even
even-
well, everybody does 80. Everybody in the world does 80.
Yeah, no, that's even. I don't want 80. But see, here's the thing, too.
I like 81. I like the idea.
81's great, too, because if you take 8 and add it to 1, it's a 9, and 9 is a phenomenal odd number. So Ari knows this already. So we got to have even numbers. Now, 12 bar reserve. That's an even number, but again, 2 plus 1 is 3. So I'm okay with that. Because in the blues progression, you can't really have 11 bar phrase. So you can, but let's just stick with the 12 or 16. So,
oh my!
I'm wearing a 9 3/4 shirt during this too.
I like that.
It's appropriate.
I like that too.
95. Look, mine's got 95 on it.
Oh, no. What are you wearing, Ben?
Nice.
Salt Life. Salt Life 23.
There you go.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We've had a blast. We've enjoyed the drinks, the laughs, the education, all of it. we're again later this week. We're reviewing the standard, the 81 bourbon, right? I know that's not the name of it, but the blended bourbon, and we're super excited for that. But thank you guys so much, Ari, Neil, for hanging out with us. You guys go pick up a bottle of Three Chord, the expression that best suits you, or just all of them, and check them out. But thank you guys so much for hanging out. We couldn't tell you enough how much we appreciate it.
Thanks for having us too. You guys are great, man. You're having a lot of fun. I love that.
Yeah, that was fun.
Absolutely. You guys take care.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks again.
Awesome.
Ari Sussman,
That's so
Master
good.
Blender, and Neil Giraldo. Try not to mess that up. I'm really
Giraldo.
good at people
I got
getting off the show. People getting off
Geraldo.
the Don't do what that thing you were just
But
doing.
that's Geraldo.
Yeah, don't.
Brendan can
don't
do
hurt.
it. He's Italian.
I can do it in
Oh,
Italian.
right.
Ben
Yeah,
doing it
I
was
can't do
offensive.
it.
Make the
You just did
gestures.
it. I'm
I did
offended.
not do it. I was
You did.
swirling my glass. I'm swirling
So-
my bourbon.
The
That's
Geraldo.
It looks like it.
That's enough out of you guys. So really interesting stuff there. I liked hearing, kind of what they were about, why they picked different things, why they went with different things, and good education there. Something a little different. We haven't had a lot of distillers. Actually, we haven't had any distiller blenders, anybody on, or anybody big like that with the show. So awesome interview. Enjoyed that.
Mhm.
And glad that we got to hang out with them. Thanks to my guy Chris for setting that up. That was really good stuff. So
Thanks, Chris.
shout out Chris. Okay, time for everybody's favorite segment of this show: pursuits and
That's right.
purchases. Trademark, patent pending, all those things. Who wants to go first on this?
I
I
think
do.
Brendan definitely
I do.
wants to go first.
I think-
Mine's less exciting than yours.
Okay.
All right. So, you guys zoomed in on me, huh? No pressure. No pressure.
We just zoomed
I-
out on everyone else.
whatever. I realized that I've been spending a little bit frequently on bourbon lately. So I said, hey, you know what? Calm down.
Yes.
Don't buy anything. Well, it just so happens my mother-in-law out of nowhere sent me all of a sudden there was a package that had to be signed for today. And I was like, ooh, what's this? I'm 21 and older, and this has got my name on it. I opened it up. Bam! Henry McKenna 10-year. Single
nice.
barrel. Little bottle and bond action. Yeah, apparently they had it, she was on an email list for different wines at a place up in upstate New York, and they had a little Henry McKenna 10 action. So, yeah, never go wrong with a little Henry McKenna 10. One of my favorite. It was one of the ones that made me fall in love with bourbon early on. I love Henry McKenna 10. So, thank you.
Yeah, so does the rest of the
Sandy.
world.
Yeah,
Yeah, in San Francisco 2018 and 2020.
yeah, they really messed that up for everyone. Couldn't just let well enough alone.
So Ben and I picked something up actually today. So
Yes.
you'll hear about it a week late, but we were lucky enough to hear and stop by
Yes.
Lucan's in Tampa, and we both were able to pick up a bottle of Stag Junior. Stag Junior, everybody loves Stag Junior, but it's a store pick.
That's
so
right.
super excited to have gotten that. Can't wait to crack it open. Ben's a big Stag Junior fan. I am as well. So excited to crack that open and try it. I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah, we got a couple more things. All right, Ben, I won't steal your thunder. You want to say what we got from ABC the other day?
Yes. In addition to the second, it's been a pretty budget week.
It's been a
not budget week. But when good bottles are available, you got to just buy them and then figure out who you want to split them with. And TJ's agreed to spend 70% of it, and I spend 30% of it.
That's how it works here.
That's how it goes. 70-30 split. But we got a bottle of Michter's 10-year bourbon
Ooh.
and a bottle of Woodford Reserve Masters batch proof at 128.6, 123.3, something like that. So pretty stoked on those two. So once we get those open, we'll have to tell you about it. But
no,
I was pretty stoked.
Yeah, and those weren't even the ones I was thinking of. I kind of forgot about those after driving to and from Orlando on Sunday.
Oh,
Backing up
man,
a couple
hard
days
life.
backed up a couple days before that, and we were able to pick up a Knob Creek 12. Got that at ABC. So we had Sean on a couple of weeks ago. Sean was telling me that he really liked that. We were texting back and forth. So shout out Sean. And then
is that the lower proof one? Comparatively to other Knob Creek?
It is.
It's 100.
So it's 100 proof
Okay.
versus the 9, which is 120. Yes.
The red label, or the
Blue.
gold.
No, it's blue and gold as opposed to black and gold.
Blue and
and
gold,
then
okay.
we also picked up a again, it helps with Ben does live so close because we just split everything and then the cost is so much lower. Well, we picked up a Jack Daniel's barrel strength rye, the 2020 special edition, which I heard ABC put out on mistake. Like that was in the vault like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So Ben and I got one, and that's really cool. So it is cool because whenever I buy a new bottle, I'm just like, my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I split it with Ben. It's okay. No big deal." So
that's right.
Anyway, we'll crack all these open. And he gets like 70% of the bottle.
That's how it goes.
So when we crack all these open, we'll let you know how they are. But yeah, I'm on timeout from buying anything else this week because that was a lot of fun. Another pursuit that I had, a purchase that I had. My wife's not a big fan of this, but I'm going to put this up on the screen.
Yes.
And I want you guys' immediate reaction.
Okay.
If it's a new picture of you, that would fit. Wife's not a fan of it.
You literally look at a picture of me the entire episode. So for those that are
nude,
nude,
naked, not naked was the key word.
For those that are listening, you probably won't be able to see this.
Yeah,
but for everybody that's watching, check this out, guys. This now sits on my whiskey cabinet. What do you think about this?
I have something, and people who listen
wait, should we tell people what it is?
Me and Brendan going with this. Yeah,
I got something on this though.
It's a brass buffalo from Buffalo Trace.
Yeah,
that has a tray on either side. The tray on one side of the Buffalo is about the size that you could fit a Blanton's bottle in. The tray on the other side, I don't know what you'd use that for. Maybe
Glencairn.
Yeah, maybe a Glencairn. Each one would fit.
I thought it was napkins.
It's a brass. Well, yeah, you could do that, or you could do like an ashtray, I guess. But it's a brass Buffalo Trace Buffalo with again 2 kind of trays on both sides of it. So my wife hates it. When I pulled it out of the box yesterday, shout out my guy. I've shouted everybody out today, but shout out Rick for sending this. My wife cannot stand it. What do you guys think?
I can easily see why your wife hates this. And why she makes you put it in your Harry Potter closet. Because
I went on a rant about this on the bench the other day after we were outside of the Unconquered statue for like 3 hours. And it just has always bothered me.
Plugging your other podcast is great.
I also, Worst Dog Show, Dogcoin was mentioned as well.
Okay, it's not Dogcoin. I'll tell you that.
Dogecoin.
No, you have to at least know how to pronounce it. It's Doge. Dogecoin.
I'm not into that penny stock bull crap.
50-cent stock. Doge. It's crypto.
70 cents at one point. Whatever.
I own Doge, so.
Oh my god. I want to talk about the genitalia on the buffalo. I hate how they make statues anatomically correct for animals. It doesn't make sense. Why? Why is it necessary?
Dwarfs you does not mean that you need to be all upset about it.
I mean,
are you jealous of the buffalo?
Yeah.
I mean, that buffalo's does not. A real life one.
Actual to scale buffalo.
So you're
dwarfed.
You're upset about the balls and the penis on the buffalo.
I just think it's a non-necessary detail. Now you have a buffalo penis in your living room.
Do you it's in my Harry Potter horns on the buffalo? Do you put horns on a deer? Like is that? Right. Is that
it's just
too manly for you?
There's just like, do you give it a like?
Speaking of that, they make mannequins way too lifelike now.
This is the most useless podcast material I've ever heard in my life.
Okay, but you guys, you like the buffalo? You don't like the buffalo? Where are we at with this?
I can see it being in a closet underneath your stairs the entire time. Anywhere else, not happening.
Now, if I build a man cave / bar in the new house that we're going to get in the neighborhood, it'll be cool for the bar.
Right. If you put it in a room by itself, then yes. But I don't like people who have like bourbon, like barrel, like lids, around or whatever. I'm like, come on, guys.
Your light fixture in your kitchen is literally a barrel.
I know that was in the house.
Okay.
While I had it,
you get a credit.
All right. I just think there's not enough. Like you can't just have one buffalo penis statue in your house. You need like 20 of them. If you're going to commit to it, just commit to it. For once in your life,
it's virality.
They're hard to find, but I'll see what I can do. Look, there's over our cabinets. There's like a thing of flowers, a thing of vases, a big silver plate. Like, what if I replaced every single one of those with a buffalo? She'd be so upset. That's this week's project. So, all right, Bourbon on a Budget. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Neil and Ari were great. We will review their bourbon on Thursday's episode that comes out. You can check it out: YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, all those places. We appreciate you guys' support. Again, Bourbon on a Budget on social media. And if you want to see cool pictures of Buffalo balls, check us out. For TJ Pittenger, myself, Brendan Sonnone, and Ben Cock, thanks for hanging out. Cheers, everybody.